And this translator translated this book, which was much more poetic and started really a whole turn in his writing toward a different kind of aesthetic. It translated it very prosaically and somewhat journalistically. And because I had this whole retrospective view, I saw the author in a whole other way in their work, and I just don't believe that, translating an author who is dead and a work that was of such literary importance that I would have the presumption to think that I knew better what things should be, that I had some norm in my head that I could apply to this that stands outside of all context of history and so on, and say, I know better, let me rewrite, Joseph Roy, let me rewrite the classic, but 50 years ago.
First you, then you, then you.
I have not read the book. This is the first time I'm exposed to your ideas. Did you get invited to do the translation? Did you search out this book to do the translation? And then you worked, this is what I gleaned from your conversation, working together is the ideal, rather, with the emails back and forth, this is just unbelievably wonderful to do a translation and then get exactly what the author is expressing. But I would love to hear a little bit more about the book that we were taking apart. The story, what made you write the book? What is it about? Is it a biography? Is it an autobiography?
No, it's not.
No, it's not. But if every book, I think, that people write contains some of your life experiences, don't they? Sure.
Of course. No, there's a couple of issues there we have to address. It's not an autobiography. It's my first book, but and people very often, make that connection between writer and the characters. But I have two characters who are completely different. They actually the exact opposites of each other, and in the beginning, and then they get closer to each other. It's not.
One more question after this. We have to wrap.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so two characters, and when I read from the Mandelkern voice or from the Svensson voice, people take me as a writer for somebody completely different. There's something very funny. They either think I'm hesitant, undecided, or I drink too much. So it's maybe I'm in between as a person. It's not my autobiography, but it tells stories of my world, I would say, and the places I know, for example. It's hard to give a summary of this book, but I would say it's about two men in an identity crisis, in a male identity crisis, who have different approaches of storytelling and telling their story and coming to grips with what they want to do in life.
Solving their problem.
By writing in two different ways. Yeah.
So they try to solve their problem. One has a problem with his wife, and the other one has a problem with everything else.
With his past.
With his past and the love triangle.
Yeah.
But Roscoe could be that.
You said one more question?
Sure.
One more question.
So was it?
Yeah. Did you?
Well, not.
Did you seek him out? Did you seek him out, or did you had the
We
book?
met. We were put together by mutual acquaintances who thought that we would be a good match, author-translator, and
it developed over the years.
Yeah.
First we met as because we had mutual friends, and then it went on, and then at one point the publisher was involved, and then there were translation funds involved.
At times we were just taking walks around Brooklyn together, and I was sort of parasitically, sort of like talented Mr. Ripley, slowly trying to transform myself into his authorial persona.
Okay, two quick questions. The black shirt and you, because he's there.
Okay, just quickly for Ross, I was wondering about cultural differences between the German and English-speaking audiences, were there aspects of the original that you found would have been strange to an English-speaking audience that you had to adapt or domesticate?
I'd say the main one had to do with the ethnic descriptions in the book, right? That was maybe an audience issue where Svensson, when he walks through New York, there's a great sort of quality of New York that's evoked, especially after September 11th, of people of all sorts intermingling and kind of bonding across the normal ethnic barriers. But there was a problem with sometimes the ethnic makeup of the people didn't correspond to the neighborhoods they were in very well. And also Svensson, the character, the consciousness this was being filtered through, had a tendency to just see people and automatically know what ethnicity they were. So he would say, the Algerian is doing this, the Mexican is doing that, the Cuban. And for an English audience, I felt like, besides the question of whether he was being vaguely racist, which was almost secondary, the primary question was how would he know so precisely what ethnicity all these people are who he doesn't know. And Thomas and I spoke, and we realized we were talking about a sort of cultural divide, that Germans will sometimes be a little more confident about sort of picking out from physiognomy or something, these kind of stereotypical labels, and that Americans would maybe shy from that or find it a little to be characterizing the protagonist in a certain way. And there, having the author to be able to say, oh, no, that's not how the character is supposed to be at all, really helps, because then okay, it's about the character. We should do something. So we adapted that in a way to make it less. He knew a lot of these people. We made it so that he knew, he had some background information of the people he was labeling. He knew where they were from. He met them before. One of them was wearing, instead of being described as the Argentinian, he was the guy wearing an Argentinian soccer jersey. To get across that multi-ethnicity was an important theme that shouldn't be erased and ignored, but to get it across in a way that was maybe a little more in tune with the way New Yorkers might think about diversity versus the way Germans might tend to work to.
And I think the German parts we didn't change at all, because they're not. We talked earlier, and Chad said, it's the Germanness of the book is pretty small, so it's fairly international in tone, and the frame of reference is fairly international. I think it has German references. It's set in Germany, but it's it's not nothing no one would understand here. It's everybody. We hadn't.
It's also set in Brazil.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's really related to the book because I haven't read it. But in Germany, you have different ways of addressing people, the do and see. That's one question. The other is that swear words have very different meaning in English compared to German. You have much more of a sexual connotation in English swear words compared to the German swear words.
Scatological.
Or excrements.
Yeah.
So how do you approach questions like that?
We have some scatological curses too that we can use when they're there. The former do and z, that was one thing where I was able to address it a little when the characters first meet. He says blah 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 Ms. ... and she says call me Tully. That was the best I could do. But there were other parts where they were battling, where one wanted to use the formal mode of address, the other the informal, and it got lost. And my only defense is, well, when the Germans translate from English, they always have to insert in there. There's this moment in Germany when two people are talking formally and they decide they've become close enough that they should switch, and one of them, usually is in some relationship of superiority, the other, unless they're equals, would propose the do, the informal mode of address. So in German editions of English books, when they have to make this switch, the German translator will often have to insert a little line like, is it okay if I use do with you? And they have to figure out exactly where to place them. So this is, an aspect.
We usually also use a glass of champagne and a kiss.
To loosen up. And then curses, curses sometimes you just have to find, if someone calls someone a direct doctor or something, a lot you'll translate it situationally, Well, in that situation, he would probably be calling him a motherfucker or something. Sometimes I will ask if the German author is alive. I will ask them, how strong is this? Is this person really mad, or are they just slightly mad? In order to get situationally exactly what curse it should be. So I think that our time is up, right?